Chapter 609 The Emperor Falls. This time around, even Huo Yuao's spiritual interference domain was unable to conceal their aura. The powerful spiritual fluctuations which were released by them could be sensed by every single person within the temporary palace. A gigantic eye appeared in the air. This eye was golden, but its surroundings shone with a majestic purple gold light. Its frightening radiance expanded at the next instant as small mystical hammers appeared throughout the entire hall. Mantra amidst the void. Spiritual tempest. This was one of the four martial soul fusion skills Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong shared. This was also the most powerful spiritual attack amongst their martial soul fusion skills. They were no longer holding back, as they had to achieve their mission objective as quickly as possible. Right now, even if Long Xiao and Yu Shishui were to be revived, they would also choose to avoid taking Huo Yuao and Tang Wuten's soul skill head on. Perhaps only the evil eye tyrant would stand a chance against this spiritual attack. Of course, ifs and maybes were meaningless most of the time. The entire dining hall was instantly ravaged and shredded to pieces. Even though this was supposed to be a spiritual attack, it was so powerful that it was able to destroy material objects. The heads of those Class 9 soul engineers who were injured by the ice explosion and the spiritual blast eventually exploded after the soul tools on their bodies gave way. They were not the only victims of the powerful martial soul fusion skill. Shu Tianran's guards had no chance against the powerful and intense spiritual attack released by Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong. This spiritual tempest was simply overwhelmingly frightening. Shu Tianran lost two powerful Class 9 spiritual defensive soul tools throughout the storm. This was sufficient to show how powerful their spiritual tempest was. At this moment, Shu Tianran was starting to lose hope. The throbbing pain within his body made it extremely difficult for him to flee. As of now, Tang Wutong was already wielding her golden dragon spear, while Huo Yuao held his small dagger. Huo Yuao swept his dagger horizontally as a streak of icy blue light appeared before their eyes. The 10 meters of space around Shu Tianran were instantly frozen. At that instant, the ambient temperature plunged to a temperature which was close to absolute zero. Shu Tianran mustered the remaining strength in his body to resist the intense cold which was attacking his body. The most frightening thing was how Huo Yuao had only done this to temporarily immobilize Shu Tianran. Now that the dining hall had been destroyed by the spiritual tempest, the entire area was covered with dust and dirt. When Shu Tianran could finally see what was around him, he realized that the two people before him had transformed. Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong had vanished. Instead, two familiar pairs of eyes were now staring at him. They were none other than the death god Douluo, Yu Shishui, and the dragon emperor Douluo, Long Xiao. Be both of you. Shu Tianran was no longer able to make sense of reality. He could no longer be sure if the people who were standing before him were Yu Shishui and Long Xiao, or Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong. If he had to make a choice, he would rather believe that the two people were Yu Shishui and Long Xiao. After all, they were ultimate Douluo. Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong were still terribly young. Even if he was somehow able to survive today's attack, he would have no chance of conquering the continent if his foes were two Shrek Academy soul masters who possessed transcendent Douluo abilities. He was already very well aware of how powerful an ultimate Douluo was after witnessing the powers displayed by the dragon emperor Douluo and the death god Douluo. As long as he or she was careful, an ultimate Douluo was effectively invincible in this world. Unfortunately, the hope in his heart did not manage to last very long. Shu Tianran had noticed the eye on Long Xiao's forehead. The eye was sparkling as a beam of purple gold light surged out from it and landed on Shu Tianran's head. Shu Tianran's last Class 9 spiritual defensive soul tool finally shattered. At this instant, he felt as though he had become naked. That's it. I'm done. Shu Tianran closed his eyes in pain. He knew that his worries had been legitimate. He was simply too weak when compared to the powerful soul masters of the Douluo continent. At the end of the day, an ultimate Douluo possessed enough power to destroy any political power. If he had another chance at things again, he would have tried to get Yu Shishui to forgive him at all costs. If Shu Tianran had the death god Douluo protecting him, there was no way the two of them would be able to kill him. In the end, he was finally certain that the two people before him could not be Yu Shishui and Long Xiao. Both ultimate Douluo did not possess the ultimate ice ability, nor the ability to conceal themselves. Hence, they could only be Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong. Even though he did not know when they had become so powerful, he was certain that they were the ones behind his demise. Of course, all of this was no longer important. Huo Yuao unleashed the Merfolk again at this crucial moment. A second streak of purple gold light landed on Shu Tianran's body at the very next instant. Boom. Shu Tianran's skull exploded as his blood and pieces of his brain splattered across the room. The Emperor of the Sun Moon Empire was dead. In fact, he had died without an intact corpse. Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong heaved a sigh of relief after killing Shu Tianran. Even though the entire sequence was within their control, they had actually expended a fair bit of energy and power to achieve this outcome so quickly. Before making their move, they had already agreed to focus on spiritual attacks. Hence, Tang Wutong was not required to make too many attacks. Huo Yuao was the main fighting force throughout the entire battle. The results justified their means. Shu Tianran had ultimately died under the power of Huo Yuao's Merfolk duet and spiritual blasts. Streaks of light started to flicker in the sky. The Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion had started to gather towards the dining hall. They were now establishing protective soul barriers as they tried to envelop the entire compound within their shield. Huo Yuao released a long howl as a gigantic black dragon soared into the air and transformed into an image that rammed into the barrier above them. At the same time, Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong flickered before they vanished into thin air. Even though they were only here for a short amount of time, Huo Yuao was certain that the Sun Moon Empire's surveillance soul tools must have already captured their appearances. This was enough, as they had created enough opportunities for Juzi. The link's defensive barrier would be a difficult problem to handle even for a powerful soul master. This was especially true when the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion was the one who had established it. Unfortunately, they were now up against two ultimate Douluo. Previously, when Shu Tianran was trying to contain Yu Shishui, he had used high energy compression array soul tools. This was because he knew that any linked defensive soul barrier would not be able to contain an ultimate Douluo, even if it was established by the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion. This was exactly what happened. Huo Yuao's morning dew dagger sliced into the linked defensive soul barrier as he cut a slit in it effortlessly. Tang Wutong raised her fists and made a gaping hole where Huo Yuao had cut. Both of them darted through the hole and concealed themselves with their imitation as they disappeared into the night sky. All this time, Juzi had been waiting in her room anxiously. She could not help but shudder when she heard the loud explosion caused by the spiritual tempest. At that moment, she was overwhelmed by two different emotions. She was extremely excited. If Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong were to succeed, all her problems would be solved on their own. She was also overwhelmed by fear. Right now, she had already given up all hope on Huo Yuao. She knew that there was no way that he would give up Tang Wutong for her. Now that Huo Yuao had become so powerful, she could no longer control him. In fact, he was becoming a threat to her rule over the Sun Moon Empire. Nonetheless, she really didn't want him and Tang Wutong to fail. She could not imagine what would happen to Huo Yuao if they were to fail. This fear stemmed from a mother's love for her husband. It was not something which she could control with her rationality. Juzi. At this instant, she heard a very familiar voice. The voice woke her up from the possibilities she was running through in her head. She instinctively exclaimed, Yuao. It was important to note that there were many servants present in her room at this moment. These servants were all surprised by her sudden exclamation. Juzi instantly flashed a cold stare after seeing their reaction. It seemed as though she was about to kill them to shut them up. However, she heard Huo Yuao's voice once again. The Juzi I know would never kill innocent people. Juzi took a deep breath as she tried to calm herself down. This was really not a good time to silence people. She exclaimed, I want all of you to scram out of this room. If anyone dares to spread any meaningless rumors around the palace, don't blame me for being ruthless. Yes, your majesty. The servants scrambled out of the room. Juzi hastily called out to Huo Yuao. Yuao, are the two of you all right? At this instant, a series of loud rumbles could be heard from outside the room. Initially, it sounded as though there were a few flashes of lightning across the sky. However, they soon grew in intensity as they gave off the impression that a huge storm was brewing above the temporary palace. The chain explosion Juzi had mentioned to Huo Yuao had finally started. The comprehensive surveillance system established by the aerial surveillance soul tools was starting to lose its coverage. At the very next instant, Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong appeared before Juzi. Now that the surveillance soul tools had been destroyed, they no longer had to worry about being noticed. After seeing how Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong were safe and sound, Juzi heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, she was overwhelmed by a complex emotion. Both of you. Juzi instinctively spoke. However, she stopped as she found herself at a loss for words. Huo Yuao nodded and said, we have succeeded. Shu Tianran is dead. I detonated his head with my spiritual attack. The 10 people who were protecting him are also dead. Now, we can retreat after fulfilling our promise to you. It is now your turn to fulfill your end of the promise. Juzi was elated after hearing what Huo Yuao had told her. Her body started to tremble in excitement as she exclaimed, dead? He's really dead? Even though she refused to admit it, Shu Tianran had always been one of the biggest worries on her mind. Who are you? Al stared at Juzi as various thoughts ran through his mind. Juzi, after we part ways today, we might not meet again if you fulfill your end of the promise. Take care of yourself. Who are you outside? At the end of the day, the lady before him was the first female to open up his heart. There was also a period of time when he had hoped that she would change her mind. However, they ultimately were not fated to be together. Who are you? Al was naturally able to sense the regret in Juzi's heart. However, he knew that they could not turn back time. It was impossible for them to start over again now that they had missed the opportunity to do so earlier. He already had Tang Wutong and was incapable of loving another person. In addition, he knew that Juzi would never be able to give up on what she had now. She wanted to fight for power for her son and for the hatred in her heart. Who are you? Al had already managed to secure 10 years of peace for the Douluo continent to recover and develop the necessary capabilities to try and defend against the Sun Moon Empire. He was not sure what would happen after those 10 years. Just as he had said, this was possibly the last time he would see Juzi. After this, he would try to push for the rank of ultimate Douluo, following which, he would aim to enter the God realm. If he was lucky enough to succeed, he would no longer be able to intervene in the Douluo continent's affairs. Nonetheless, he was still very confused about the feelings he had for the God realm. He had no idea what that world would be like. After hearing his words, Juzi's face turned very pale. Why? What are you planning to do? Who are you? Outside and said, just as I mentioned to you before, Wutong and I will be going into closed-door cultivation. We have become too powerful in too short an amount of time for our bodies to adjust. It's time for us to consolidate the power we have gained. I have no idea how long we will be cultivating, but I don't think we will meet in the foreseeable years ahead. Nonetheless, I really hope that you will fulfill your end of the promise. If not, I won't hesitate to kill you with my bare hands. After finishing his sentence, Who are you? Stared into her eyes before he turned around and held Tang Wutong's hand, following which, both of them vanished into thin air before her eyes. Tears started to stream down Juzi's beautiful face as her body started to tremble vigorously. Did he leave just like this? At that instant, she felt that she had really lost him forever. This could really be the last time she saw him. Is this really the end? Is that it? Juzi, why? Why did you make such a foolish decision back then? If you had chosen him back then and let go of all your hatred, you would have been a lot happier. Is revenge really that important? Is power really so important? Ha ha ha. Juzi laughed at herself as tears continued to flow uncontrollably from her eyes. The servants who were waiting outside of the room could not help but shudder. Suddenly, a group of people rushed towards Juzi's room. We are here to see Her Majesty. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.